I bought the land 5 years ago with a plan: build a small home, maybe retire there one day. It was peaceful, slightly tucked away, surrounded by dense woods and rolling hills. The air was fresh, the noise of the city a distant memory, and best of all, no one bothered me out there. It was mine, legally and entirely. No mortgages, no liens. Just a quiet escape waiting for its turn to become home. Then life threw a curveball. My father's health took a turn, and I had to move cross-country to care for him. I didn't want to sell the land, so I simply maintained ownership and paid the property taxes every year without fail. I figured when things settled down, I'd return and pick up where I left off. Fast forward 4 years. Dad passed peacefully, and after handling all the affairs, I finally had time to breathe again. I packed my truck and took the long drive back to my property, ready to reconnect with the place that had once filled me with so much hope. I expected overgrown grass, maybe some fallen branches. What I didn't expect was a 3-story building gleaming in the sun. A hotel. An actual, full-fledged, newly built, 28-room hotel, right smack in the middle of my land. At first, I thought I was lost. I double-checked the GPS, triple-checked the parcel number with the county records app on my phone. No mistake. This was my property. I stood there, mouth open, heart pounding. It wasn't just the building. There were signs, flower beds, a massive parking lot, even a now open banner flapping cheerfully in the breeze. A few guests were checking in, completely unaware they were part of the wildest real estate blunder of the decade. I snapped photos of everything, walked around the perimeter, and confirmed what I already feared. This wasn't a little accident. This was a deliberate construction project, and someone had poured serious money into it. But who? The answer came from the most predictable place: the HOA. Apparently, while I was away, a new homeowners association had formed nearby, led by a woman who might as well have been the blueprint for every overbearing suburban cliché, Karen Witherspoon. HOA Karen, as the locals came to call her, had decided that my unused land would be better served as a community hospitality hub. How nice of her! Without my consent, without buying the land, and without even trying to contact me, despite my phone number and mailing address being current on the tax rolls, they built the hotel. The HOA's website bragged about it, an innovative, income-generating project on previously undeveloped land that benefits the entire neighborhood. I didn't yell. I didn't make threats. I went straight to the county offices. It took less than a day to confirm that the deed was still 100% in my name. No easements. No sale. No transfer. In the eyes of the law, the hotel was a massive, shiny, profitable monument to my ownership. My next stop was a real estate attorney who nearly fell out of his chair when I told him the story. After reviewing all the documentation, including photos, land surveys, and the HOA's own website, he looked at me and said, "They built you a free hotel." You see, in property law, there's a principle called accession. When someone builds something on your land without your permission, and you still own the land, you own whatever's built on it, unless they can prove you agreed to it, or unless a court rules otherwise. But in this case, the HOA didn't have a single leg to stand on. No paperwork. No contracts. Not even a written request. We filed a formal notice of ownership, followed by a cease and desist order to stop operations on the hotel. That was the match that lit the powder keg. The HOA, led by Karen, tried to spin the situation as a misunderstanding. She called me smug and confident, explaining that the community had voted to utilize the land for public good and that, in her words, your absence implied abandonment. I reminded her that tax payments don't make land abandoned and that no amount of votes gives anyone the right to trespass, much less build an entire business. That's when she got hostile. "You'll never win in court," she snapped. "This is for the community. You're just a greedy squatter looking for a payday." Oh, how wrong she was. Within weeks, the county formally recognized the hotel as being entirely on my land and, therefore, legally mine. No split ownership. No profit sharing. Every inch of that structure belonged to me. The construction permits had been filed by the HOA under false pretenses, listing a community trust as the owner. Once the fraud was discovered, the permits were flagged, and all operations were frozen pending further legal investigation. Karen and her HOA cronies tried to sue, but their case collapsed like a house of cards. Not only had they built on land they didn't own, but they also diverted HOA funds for the project. Turns out, several of the association members had no idea their fees were being funneled into an illegal construction effort. The fallout was fast and brutal. Members resigned. The HOA board was dissolved. Karen was investigated for fraud and misappropriation of community funds. Meanwhile, I had a different problem: what to do with a hotel I never asked for. After evaluating my options, I decided not to sell it. Not right away. Instead, I brought in a management company to handle day-to-day operations. The place was actually well built. They'd hired real professionals, which I found ironically admirable, and bookings had been steady. Within 3 months, the hotel was turning a solid profit. I rebranded it, installed new signage, and hired a local artist to give it a personal touch. I renamed it Founder's Rest, a little inside joke between me and the land I'd never abandoned. The best part? Every dollar that came in was mine. The HOA had done all the work, spent all the money, taken all the risks, and handed me the keys for free. The grand opening, which had been scheduled for the day after I returned, turned into a public embarrassment for the HOA. Media outlets picked up the story. One headline read, "Man returns to find unauthorized hotel on his land. Now he owns it." Another, "Karen's HOA nightmare. Free hotel goes to rightful owner." Karen went silent after that. Her pride, like the HOA she ran, had collapsed under the weight of arrogance. People often ask if I ever considered giving the land to the community or letting the HOA run the hotel. The answer is simple: absolutely not. I'm all for community, but not when it comes by theft. They didn't ask. They assumed. They thought I wouldn't come back, and even if I didn't, that they'd get away with it. But I did come back. And now, I sit on the deck of the top-floor suite, sipping coffee while the morning sun paints gold across the hills. Below me, staff welcome guests, luggage wheels roll across the polished floors, and birds chirp from the trees that still border the property. This was never the future I envisioned for this land, but maybe, just maybe, it turned out better. What started as an outrageous violation turned into an unexpected windfall. A reminder that property rights still matter. That silence isn't consent. And that just because you're gone, doesn't mean you've given up. I didn't fight to punish. I fought to reclaim what was always mine. And in the end, I got more than just land back. I got the last word. Would you like this story? Kindly subscribe it. Thanks for watching this video.